Good afternoon. Welcome to Channel 44. I am Mercy Gashegu Sembatia to bring you this afternoon's news in brief together with Livingstone Kawesi for sign language interpretation and translation. Pope Francis has today traveled to from the Democratic Republic of Congo to South Sudan as he continues what the Roman Catholic in Africa. It is the first visit by a pontiff since South Sudan gained independence in 2011, and Francis will be joined in the capital Juba by the Archbishop of Canterbury and moderator of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland. The Pope is honoring a promise to visit the country which he made 2019 when he welcomed South Sudan's rival leaders, President Salva Kiir and Vice President Riek Machar. Pope Francis concluded his visit to the DRC by urging young people to shun corruption. Israel and Sudan will sign a historic peace agreement in Washington in a few months' time, according to Israel's former minister following talks in Khartoum. Eli Cohen said the text of the agreement was finalized during his one-day visit to see Sudanese leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. Sudan agreed 2 years ago to normalize relations with Israel, but a deal has never been implemented. It would become the latest Arab League country to establish such ties. The UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco have officially normalized relations with Israel since 2020 as part of our US-brokered Abraham Accords. The U.S. has secured access to 4 additional military bases in the Philippines, a key bit of a real estate which would offer a front seat to monitor the Chinese in the South China Sea and around Taiwan. With the deal, Washington has stitched the gap in the arch of U.S. alliances stretching from South Korea and Japan in the north to Australia in the south. The missing link had been the Philippines, which borders 2 of the biggest potential flashpoints, Taiwan and the South China Sea. The deal, which in part reverses the U.S. departure from the former colony more than 30 years ago, is no small matter. In Japan, low immunity against COVID-19 and a growing population of frail elderly is driving a surge in coronavirus deaths, which had for a long time upheld some of the strictest pandemic restrictions. Japan once boasted of one of the lowest COVID mortality rates, but the figure has been trending upwards since the end of 2022. It hit an all-time high on the 20th of January this year, surpassing the UK, US, and South Korea, according to Oxford University's Our World in Data. Japan was largely closed to foreign visitors from 2020 till mid-June last year. It opened its borders cautiously at first. Travelers had to be part of a package tour, buy medical insurance, and be masked in all public places. Some school children had meals in silence for over 2 years as schools imposed bans on lunchtime conversations. In Russia, Vladimir Putin has compared Russia's invasion of Ukraine to the fight against Nazi Germany in a speech to mark the 80th anniversary of the conclusion of the Battle of Stalingrad. Citing Germany's decision to send tanks to Ukraine, the Russian president said history was repeating itself. He said it's unbelievable but true, and they are again being threatened by German Leopard tanks. Germany is one of the many countries helping Ukraine defend its territory. Russia launched its bloody full-scale invasion almost 1 year ago, prompting Western countries to send weapons and aid to the government in Kyiv. Brazilian senator has said the country's former leader Jair Bolsonaro was at a meeting about a plot to keep him in power. Marcos Daval has alleged he was asked to get the head of the electoral authority to compromise himself to discredit the presidential election. Mr. Bolsonaro narrowly lost October's vote, prompting unsubstantiated claims by his supporters of voting fraud. His son has admitted a meeting took place but denies a crime was committed. Mr. Doval told a news conference yesterday that he was invited to a meeting on the 9th of December with Mr. Bolsonaro by Daniel Silveira, a former lawmaker and a close ally to the former president. This was more than a month after Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva had won the election and 3 days before his presidency was formally approved. Mr. Silveira then allegedly asked Mr. Doval to get the head of the Electoral Authority, Justice Alexandre de Moraes, to make a compromising statement on tape that would lead to his arrest. The United States is tracking a suspected Chinese surveillance balloon that has been spotted flying over sensitive sites in recent days. Defense officials say they were confident the high-altitude surveillance balloon belonged to China. It was most recently seen above the western state of Montana. The military decided against shooting it down in case debris falls. China warned against speculation and hype until the facts are verified. Canada said today that it was monitoring a potential second incident involving a surveillance balloon, but did not say which country could be behind it. It said in the statement that it is working closely with the United States to safeguard Canada's sensitive information from foreign intelligence threats. In sports, up to 40 countries could boycott the next Olympic Games, making the whole event pointless, according to Poland's Sport and Tourism Minister Kamil. His comments came after Poland, Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia joined recently an International Olympic Committee plan to allow Russians and Belarusians to compete in 2024. But the IOC said yesterday that any boycott would only punish athletes. Mr. Kamil said he believed it would be possible to build a coalition of 40 countries, including Great Britain, the United States, and Canada, to support a bloc on the IOC's plan before a meeting on the 10th of February. In the United States, the government has called for the immediate rearrest of a Sudanese man convicted of killing an American diplomat 15 years ago. The U.S. State Department has also summoned Sudan's ambassador to Washington over the controversial release of the convict Abdel Rauf Abu Zaid. Zaid was facing the death penalty over the killing of diplomat John Granville and his Sudanese driver Abdel Rahman Abbas on the New Year's Day in 2008. The U.S. has described as false Sudanese claims that the family of Mr. Granville had forgiven the killer. The State Department denies that the release was part of an agreement between the two countries. In 2020, Sudan $5 million as compensation related to the 1998 bombings of the American embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, the attack on the USS Cole in Yemen in 2000, and the killing of Mr. Granville. Mr. Granville and his Sudanese colleague Mr. Abbas both worked for the U.S. Agency for International Development in Sudan. They were shot and killed by gunmen as they left a New Year party in 2008. Well, that brings us to the end of this afternoon's news in brief. Thank you for watching Channel 44. We'll return at 4 p.m. with business news. Stay tuned to Channel 44. Pastor Jessica Kayanja is coming up next with the Marriage Now program, the lunch hour special that helps us understand the different parts of the bodies that are spiritual and that can either lead us to the presence of God or away from the presence of God. Stay tuned. She has a great message for you, and enjoy your afternoon.